will truly be the golden age of America. That's what we have to have. Together we're going to unlock America's glorious destiny. We're going to achieve the most incredible future.
Seeing him break into that little jig, Donald Trump returning to the White House and the Oval Office. A very warm welcome to this edition of Business at 9. There are big implications for the markets, but it's the most nail-biting election in U.S. history. Now it has finally ended. Trump has emerged victorious, and he's won over Kamala Harris. He's won over the Democratic Party and their campaign. Now Donald Trump addressing his supporters, the Republican supporters at Palm Beach in Florida, has promised to, quote-unquote, restore America. What is the meaning of that? On the back of this, we've seen Wall Street, of course, open with amazing gains. And look at what it's doing. The Dow Jones is up by 3.25 percentage point. It's now trading around the 43,590 odd levels. The Nasdaq is making gains of nearly 2.5 percentage points, and the S&P is up by more than 2 percentage points. So it's a huge patch of green, and of course the markets are joyous about Trump returning as the President of the United States. Even if you look at our own markets back home, the Nifty has seen the biggest and the best single-day gain in a month's time. And we've seen it close just shy of 24,500 at the end of today's business. Let's get in more perspective about this Trump victory and what it really means for Indian equities. And for that, market expert Ajay Bagga joining us. Ajay, it's always a pleasure getting in your perspective and into the lead up to the American presidential elections. We've been talking about a whole lot of what could happen. Now, it's happened. At least now we have a clear winner in the elections. How do you see Indian equities move on account of it? Yes, in the short term, we are seeing this kind of euphoria, but can it persist? And in the long term, what can we expect? Could there be volatility? Because there are these uncertainties when you talk about Trump.
Yeah, uncertainties will come, would have come even with Kamala for that matter. Vikram, what do the markets don't like? They don't like uncertainty. So there is certainty today. There is a direct mandate that Trump has won. At least we know what we are dealing with. And that's a sigh of relief that the markets had. What is interesting is that even today, the FI sale number was quite high, more than 4,000 crores, Vikram. So I don't know if there were any block deals of FIs selling out, or was it a normal day of outflows? That we will come to know. But overall, it doesn't change the picture on the ground in terms of slowing earnings, elevated valuations. It spoils the water, muddies the water a little more because with a strong dollar and rising yields, we have been seeing nearly $12 billion going every week into US money market funds. Remember, US money market funds peaked at about $6 trillion. And at the start of this year, expecting interest rate cuts to come in, we were projecting that about $500 billion would come out of that and move to emerging markets. That has not happened. In fact, more liquidity is going back to the safety of the dollar and US money market funds. And with these higher yields, Vikram, that water gets more muddied. So it's not like it's a win for India today.
Yes.
I think we are in a spot of bother as a market, given the economy slowing down, given inflation being persistent.
Yes.
RBI governor came out today in a fireside chat and said that just going to neutral doesn't mean we are cutting rates. So
Correct.
we're going to see our yields going up a bit as well.
Strongest indication yet from the RBI governor coming through today, Mr. Bagga, that we are looking at the possibility that interest rate cuts are not around the corner, despite that change in stance that the RBI has gone ahead with in the last MPC meeting. But like you said, a stronger dollar, it could make imports more expensive for us, especially crude oil, and that could contribute to our inflation story. Perhaps that is the worry over here, and that should trouble the markets too, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and also Vikram, there is a big event coming up tomorrow with the Fed. rate cut or not. What do they say? I think that we will digest. But Friday, the Chinese pronouncements of the standing committee meeting will come. They postponed the meeting and started on the 4th of November. They are ending on Friday. So expect some stimulus measures there. Might be they might announce. Second, they will take counter-cyclical measures in anticipation of Trump tariffs. Third, there will be a depreciation of the Chinese currency, and there will be competitive devaluation of currencies where India will also get caught up. And in that kind of a scenario, to cut rates becomes difficult. But as you said, it brings in imported inflation, especially by the crude oil route and other commodity imports route. That brings in the weaker rupee will lead to more inflation for us. So RBI has got a very difficult balancing act to do. And you are going to see competitive devaluation of currencies. And the Chinese playbook was the same when Trump was inaugurated in 2017. You are going to see at least a 10 to 12% devaluation of the Chinese currency. And other EM currencies will have to follow suit to stay competitive on the exports.
Well, for him, it has been a bugbear for a long time in terms of what he calls manipulation of currencies. But looking at the way the IT sector could get impacted by the immigration policies of a Trump administration, how do you think that sector is going to fare? Exactly, how do you see the impact playing out on the entire IT sector for the kind of H-1B visas where Trump could be expected to get even stricter, even though a lot of local hiring is happening by many of our companies?
Yeah, a lot of our companies, Vikram, have nearshored and they have onshore centers now hiring locals,
Yes.
and that has reflected in poorer margins. So, one is that. The second part is I think Trump will differentiate between the illegal immigration that the Democrats were encouraging by removing border controls and the immigration of highly qualified people, which is what India is offering. We are sending doctors, we are sending nurses, we are sending engineers and students who are doing STEM courses. So I think those will be welcomed. So you might see a two-way immigration policy with a stronger wall and deportation of illegal immigrants and welcoming the higher skilled immigrants. The Democrats who are looked at, pro-immigrants have not done anything today. Even if you work 15, 20 years, your green card is not assured. In the 70s, you would probably get it in 2 months, 3 months' time if you were an engineer. So there are, hundreds of thousands of Indians who are waiting for that green card and they might not get it for 20 years. So will Trump help to naturalize those highly qualified manpower, which is needed if he wants to make America great? He needs that STEM manpower to be attracted to the US, and he understands it well. The people he will populate his cabinet with understand it well. This understanding was lacking with the Democrats because their constituency was to get as many immigrants in and naturalize them, illegal or legal. And they did nothing for the H-1B as far as India was concerned. Even today, you want an American visa, your waiting time could be anything from 300 to 400 days. If you log into India, you fly to Bangkok, you can take the visa and come back. Go to Dubai, take the visa and come back. But within India, you're facing the problem. They have not brought in the people back who were left out after the COVID. And that is also a soft pressure on the trade side because we have not agreed to the trade agreements. But
Or as
Trump,
trade relations are concerned, Ajay, when you look at Trump's policies, which are expected to widen the US fiscal deficit for the most part, perhaps it will lead to higher inflation, and then it will also impact interest rates globally as well. If they remain high, it could mean tightening of liquidity, and that could adversely impact emerging markets like our own. Do you see that happening?
yeah, right now that's what's happening. There was a Trump trade in anticipation of Trump coming in, and now you're seeing the way the dollar is reacting very sharply up, the way yields have gone up, and around 4.5% on the 10-year. The risk markets see a risk of Vikram. So we are right at the edge of the precipice. So that's the trouble right now for global markets. Right now, there is a relief that a big event has gone off, and you won't have a Jan 6, 2020 kind of an event or uncertainty for the next 2 months on who's the winner. You have a clear winner. That's what we spoke about last time also. Let's have a clear winner. Now, onto the policies and what is happening. Trump also doesn't want a strong dollar. He
Correct.
wants a competitive dollar. So he will try to talk it down.
Yes.
And let's see what policies they
But this
come out
clear
with.
winner, Ajay, Trump supports fossil fuels, and now the slowing Chinese growth that we have, will it likely lower commodity prices? Because for companies and economies, as far as our own resources are concerned on energy self-sufficiency, how exactly is that going to help? Because that has a direct bearing on our inflation scenario, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can expect one is with the dollar stronger, the dollar price of the commodities goes down. But as a rupee weakens, at the pump, we'll be paying more as consumers. So the government will have to take care of that rupee weakness by passing on some, higher rates for petrol, diesel, and aviation fuel. The second part is oil industry is a clear winner. In fact, the shale industry has really hailed Trump's winning, and in that the refiners also win because the kind of crude that comes out of the U.S. shale is not refined in the U.S. Those refineries can't handle that sour variety. They need the sweet variety from Saudi, which comes in, and then they refine it. Those sour crudes go into more sophisticated refiners. So good for Indian private sector refiners who are able to handle all that. And oil and gas will be one very big beneficiary in India. Even IT, apart from the immigration, I think the overall corporate earnings pool increasing, Vikram, discretionary spends by corporates can increase and their confidence levels will be boosted to spend on IT. And that will get us more than the issues from the immigration sides that the managements have been handling. But overall aggregate demand for IT will increase. The banks, big banks with the less regulation, is going to dismantle most of the remaining regulations and lesser taxes. Big banks will have discretionary pools going up and they'll be able to spend that. So those are the clear winners. Oil industry, anybody who was hyper regulated will do well, and
Yes.
as well as the high tech industry, which
Right.
in that Make America Great
Yes.
is a part of his
So,
plan.
in fact, I was going to ask you about that because now, if there is a push towards manufacturing in the US, does it mean that certain of our companies stand to gain as well? Our multinational industrial firms, as now Trump concentrates on making America great again, in his words, to make it a manufacturing powerhouse. Which are those companies and sectors that you think would gain?
See, it's very difficult to run a profitable core manufacturing company. You can't run a commodity. You can't make steel in the US, or automobiles also is a struggle. What will happen is, earlier the route was Mexico, but he's very clear that he's going to put huge tariffs on Mexican cars because all European and Chinese manufacturers set up Mexican plants to beat the Trump tariffs, and he's noted that. Now, what will come in is the higher end, higher in the value chain, high tech kind of stuff will come in. They already have a very high tech defense industry, semiconductor industry. More of those will be attracted. So it won't be core. And I don't know if too many jobs can be created. It will be very highly automated, very high tech industries. One thing we have to note, and I have to speak more to some pharma guys. I was a little lazy, Vikram, because one didn't know which one is coming, and I have not done the full homework. But my feeling after talking to a few of them a few weeks back, when it was not clear who comes in, they said at generics we are helping them cut down their healthcare bills. So we are not expecting tariffs on us. But if in the value chain the Chinese amount of inputs is high, then we might be in trouble. So we have to look at who are the ones who are importing APIs from China and then adding value and sending it to US. Those kind of companies might have an issue. So it's a little more complex. It will take us a couple of weeks to figure this out and talk to companies. But overall, I think it's better for India. A Republican regime is always better for India. Nobody's coming to our rescue if there is a war with China. We have to fight it ourselves.
Right.
But here, at least, you know what's coming at you with the Democrats. A lot of the hidden agendas, all this Canada mess
But
was,
yes. Yeah, but Ajay, if you look at the historical context as well, typically under a Republican regime, the Nifty hasn't fared better than what the Dow has, for example. In fact, we've been outmatched completely. So in that sense, will the markets rise with the same kind of fervor that it has while Trump is president?
Yeah, see, again, we have our own fundamental challenges right now
True.
with the, you are seeing downgrades to the
Yes.
Nifty EPS for the next 2 years. So you need counter-cyclical measures. The government has to step in with a higher expenditure and address the consumption issue. Private consumption is 60% of our GDP on the expenditure side. So we need more counter-cyclical measures. RBI today raised their hands. And unfortunately, you're going to see rupee depreciating in line with the Chinese currency depreciation. So we have a problem. You're quite right. But overall, if you see the nuclear deal, that was George Bush. Obama tried to stall it. All the human right sounds, the Five Eye thing, all the Canadian mess is all, a Democrat timing. Trump will at least allow you. He's the only one who's talked about Bangladesh atrocities and stuff. So I'm saying on a geopolitical risk wise, he might remove a couple of big risks which come in for us as well. And but in the end, it's real politics. It's their national interest and our national interest. You're right. Democrats might have done better for the Nifty, but I think this raises hopes that some policies will ultimately benefit us. As a friendly nation, strategically inclined to US kind of a nation, we might benefit.
Well, that's the hope, Ajay. It always is that our markets rise and we outshine like the kind of beacon we have been in difficult times and volatile times around the world. We continue that journey. Right now, we are seeing a bit of a downturn, but there has been euphoria since Trump has come up trumps in the American elections. But how long this euphoria is going to last is going to be in question. And for that, we'll always keep turning to you to decode the direction of the markets. Thanks indeed for joining us on Business at 9 tonight.
Thank you, Vikram.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.